What's up, guys? This is my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Gustaffson versus Teixeira. This card doesn't have that many big names, but I have a feeling it's going to be one of those cards that deliver without the recognition of bigger fighters, you know? And that seems to be the trend early this year. A lot of these cards that people are sleeping on tend to be the best cards. So starting with Razak versus I don't know how to say his name. Joaquim Silva, something like that. This is an interesting fight because it's a wrestler versus a boxer. Looking at it generally, right? Razak is more experienced. He has a wrestling background. He's actually really good with his wrestling. Very pressuring, very aggressive fighter. He fights emotional as well, as you've seen from the weigh-ins. He brings that emotion to the fight. And he actually fights pretty well doing that. I see him not wanting to stay on the feet too long, try to get the takedown, try to make a grinding fight, a hard and rough, in-your-face kind of fight. Silva is a bit wild on the feet. Even though he prefers to throw his hands, he's a bit wild and he throws really winging punches. But if he can connect with that, he can put almost anybody away. So if he connects on Madadi, who is actually really tough and has a good chin, I think he'll still be able to drop him. He has some real power in his hands. Not that bad off his back either, but ultimately, I'm going to go with Razak. I think his wrestling is going to be too much. He has confidence coming in this fight, fighting in his hometown. I think the pressuring style is just going to be a little too much. I'm going to go with Razak by a decision. Then we go to Oliver and Kemp versus Nordine Taleb. This is an interesting fight because we have a young fighter in Oliver who's having his debut against Nordine Taleb, who's not an easy fight at all for a debut. So it's going to be interesting to see. Oliver's a karate fighter, uses a lot of in and out movement. He has some really good head kicks. Although his boxing or his punching technique needs a little bit more work, he's a little bit on the slow side, although he has a really long reach, 77 inches for the welterweight division. That is really long. There's still a little bit to see of his game. He's still a little bit unknown, but he's fighting Nordine Taleb, who's well-rounded, has been tested in the UFC many times, has knockout power, pretty big for the division, very muscle-bound, very athletic. He's just good in almost all areas, but he prefers the striking. I'm ultimately just going to go with Nordine Taleb. I think his experience is going to play a big part here, and his inside fighting and able to get inside of the kicks. I'm going to go with Nordine Taleb by a decision or a second round knockout. Then we go to Abdul Razak Hassan versus Omari Akhmetov. This is an interesting fight because again we have another younger, more inexperienced fighter in Hassan versus Akhmetov, who's very tested, has been through a lot of fights even in the UFC compared to Hassan. A lot of these fights are hard to pick because there's a lot of newcomers, a lot of fighters that no one really knows much about. I've seen some of Hassan's fights. He's a powerhouse. I mean, this guy hits really hard. His boxing is really tight, especially his right uppercut. It's so sneaky. He gets people that uppercut when they're coming in and he just catches them out of nowhere and he just drops them with it every single time. If Akhmetov takes him down, he's gonna have a really hard time holding him down. And Hassan has pretty good movement as well. And he's fighting Akhmetov, who's well-rounded, although he's really wild on the feet. Those really wide punches. His takedowns are really good though. His takedowns are really effective and he's really good on top. If he gets top control, gets in full mount or even half guard, he's really dangerous. He is relentless. So this is a tough fight to pick because I still have to see more of Hassan, but I'm just going to go with Hassan here. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Truly, I'm really almost 50-50 in this fight. I don't really know who to pick, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and go with Hassan by a second round knockout or a decision. Then we go to Peter Sobota versus Ben Saunders, which there's really no newcomer here. Both fighters have fought in the UFC plenty of times and both very well rounded. Peter Sobota is more of a grappler though. He likes to take to the ground. He goes for submissions and get top control. And he's fighting Ben Saunders, who's also well rounded, although he's more of a striker. His knees are really excellent. He's tall for the division, very long, especially his legs, and he uses those legs to very good use. His bottom game is also extremely dangerous. Credit due to training with Eddie Bravo and the 10th Planet guys over there. His guard is wicked. I mean, he could pull so many things off his back. He can get in so many different positions. His omoplata is excellent. So in this fight, I'm going to go with Ben Saunders. I think he's going to be a little bit too much, especially on the feet, especially in the clinch as well. And even if he gets taken down, he's going to be a handful for Peter Sobota. So I'm going to go with Ben Saunders by a second round finish. knockout or submission. Then we go to the co-main event, Volkan Oezdemir versus Misha Cirkunov. A very important fight for the light heavyweight division. These are the more of the up-and-coming guys in the division. Probably the only up-and-coming guys in the division. You have Oezdemir, who's more of a striker, pretty good with his kicks, especially his high kicks. He had one fight in the UFC, I believe, and that was against OSP, and he beat him, which put him up to number 5. That's very rare to see. When do you usually see fighters after their first fight get ranked so high? After one fight, he's ranked number 5. He's above Misha Cirkunov, who's number 7, and he's had like 4 fights in the UFC. And really impressive ones too. He could be effective with his punching techniques. He likes to duck his head a lot though and throw winging punches, overhand rights and lefts. And sometimes he's effective with it and sometimes he's not. From the OSP fight, early on he was catching OSP with these shots, but then OSP started to time them and he started catching them with uppercuts and left hooks. And it could be dangerous if Misha Cirkunov throws that left or right high kick they time so perfectly. Also, Volkan is not too bad in the grappling department, especially taking his opponents down, but I don't believe it's going to be much of a factor here. Misha Cirkunov is a much better grappler. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has a judo background, I believe, and his striking is not bad either. It's very solid, very tight, and not too many mistakes. His punches are more in tight. His punches come down the pipe more. His high kicks are also really good, and he's just really good on the ground. When he takes his opponent down, he just dominates them. His sweeps are excellent, even if he gets on his back, and he's a powerhouse also. He's a very strong and imposing fighter in this division. Looking at his record in the UFC, he's finished every single opponent he's been in there with. But I believe it's going to actually be a pretty good fight. I see Volkan being a tough fighter, not backing down, trying to keep the fight standing, but I do see him getting taken down and controlled. So my prediction for this fight is going to be Misha Cirkunov, and I'm going to go by a decision. And then we go to the main event, Alexander Gustaffson versus Glover Teixeira. This is also an important fight for the division. The winner of this probably has one more fight afterward, and then they most likely get a title shot, unless one of Cirkunov or Volkan just decimates the other and then just skips the line. This is an interesting fight though, because I don't know where Gustaffson or Teixeira is at in their careers. I don't know where they are mentally. It looks like Gustaffson actually looks a little bit better. If you looked at the weigh-ins, look at his interviews, he actually looks pretty confident, pretty happy with himself. Maybe because he had a kid, and that can add some motivation. It can also decrease motivation in fighters, but I think it's given him more motivation and more excitement to train and win. Teixeira did not look that good. If you look at the weigh-ins, he looked really drawn out, and Gustafson looked great. So that also plays a factor here. I think Teixeira's getting a little bit too old here. I think light heavyweight's getting a little tough for him, and that could play a big factor here. And he's coming off getting viciously knocked out by Anthony Johnson. And then against Jared Cannonier, he did show some good wrestling, but he was a little bit more gun-shy on the feet, which you've never seen before. Gustafson came off that war with Daniel Cormier. I mean, that was one of the best Gustafsons I've ever seen, but he still barely lost that fight. But give all the credit to him. He fought Daniel Cormier, and that was an excellent fight. Even dropped him with the knee and then the left hook. But then he fought Jan Blachowicz. That was just a terrible showing from Gustafson. His striking was not there. He had no footwork, no head movement. He was getting tagged by shots he would have never gotten tagged before from. But his wrestling did look really good. He was taking out Blachowicz very easily, timing his shot perfectly, controlling him, and I believe Alexander is a natural grappler as well. I think he's a very talented grappler. And I think if he works more on it, which I'm pretty sure he does, he could be a force to be reckoned with, even on the ground. People are so worried about his boxing, but then when he starts taking opponents down and completely throwing them off, he could be a problem for everybody. Even against Cormier, even against Jones, he's the only one to out-grapple both of them. If you look at it technically, which is crazy. If he comes back confident and like how he used to, his boxing's excellent, very long for the division. His leg reach is 46 inches. Get this, his leg reach is only 2 inches shorter than Stefan Struve, who's 7 feet tall. That is crazy. And that's a reason why he's so hard to take down, because his hips are so high up, it's hard to get him off balance, especially for shorter fighters. His uppercuts, his straight right hands, his jabs, his left hooks, everything he throws on the feet, incorporating boxing, is almost perfect. He doesn't throw too many kicks though. Then he's fighting Glover Teixeira, who's more well-rounded. He has excellent Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very good wrestling. His boxing is also good, but he excels more in hooks, especially that left hook. His left hook is really dangerous. If you look at his Ryan Bader fight and the Quentin Jackson fight, his left hook is very dangerous. And Glover has really good submission ability. He's really hard to take down himself, and I don't believe Gustafson's going to try to take him down in this fight. But who knows? He could surprise us again. So my prediction for this fight is going to be Alexander Gustaffson. And I'm going to go by a third round knockout or a decision. I don't think Teixeira is going to show up like he used to. I think he's a little bit over the hill. And I think Gustaffson's going to actually show up like he used to, a little more confident. And I think the boxing is just going to be a little too much for Teixeira, the speed especially. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. I didn't do so well in my predictions on the last card, but hopefully I do better on this card. So later, I'm going to break down one of the fights on this card early next week, and then I have another video coming out after that, which I'm working on right now. I'm actually working on a couple videos, so be on the lookout for those. And make sure to comment below what your guys' predictions are. I'm curious to see what you guys think, if you guys disagree or you agree, and why. So make sure you guys comment below. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.